Hey everyone, today I want to share some ideas about how Breslovers learn Torah. It's not the only way to learn Torah, but depending on your Rebbe or school or yeshiva, they teach you how to learn Torah in different ways, and the truth is they can all work for different people. Now, this is the method that worked for me. To give you some context, I'm 30 years old, and I didn't start studying seriously until 2.5-3 years ago. Nothing worked for me until I started picking up Rabbi Nachman's method and actually implementing it. So first of all, what are the Breslov Sfarim? What are the Breslov books? A lot of people have heard of this one, Likutei Moharan. This is my favorite book in the entire world. It's actually not too long of a book, but Breslov Research Institute did a 15-volume series of this, and I highly recommend it. But if you don't have 15, you can get the first one and start there. And these are the collected teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. And each one of the Torahs, that they're called Torahs, contains within it stories and practical advice and proof and Kabbalistic intentions, and they can be a little bit difficult. They feel like these amazing, beautiful tapestries of Torah. Again, if you haven't seen this before, definitely open it up, flip through it, and just get a sense, get a feel for what it's like. Now, a lot of people try to pick up this sefer and learn it, and they find that it's pretty difficult. And to tell you the truth, I find it difficult, especially some parts more than others. So how does a Breslover learn Torah? Number one, they sort of have two tracks. The first track is learning Likutei Moharan, this sefer right here that I just showed you, fast. So you don't try to get in depth into all the details. You just try to cover a lot of ground. Now, I think people aim, when they're pretty serious learners, they might aim to finish it every single year. But the idea is to just have a fast pace. Just keep going through it, because the Torah, even though we have all these different Sfarim, and we have the oral Torah and the written Torah and all these commentaries, etc., it's all one body. Just like Hashem is one, the Torah is one. And if you cover more ground, at least this is what worked for me, and what Rabbi Nachman tells us to do, if you cover more ground, you'll start to see how things unlock and how things connect, instead of just staying in one place in depth for a really long time. So that's track one. Track two is the intuitive track. It's where you have a feeling of, hey, I feel like I want to work on the avoda of eating, or I want to work on the avoda of simplicity. This is something that Rabbi Nachman stresses a lot, that the greatest wisdom of all wisdoms is being simple. So let's say I have a feeling of I want to work on simplicity, for example. So what I can do is, and again, this is track two, I can go to Likutei Eitzot. What's Likutei Eitzot? Likutei Eitzot is this book. It's actually translated by Breslov Research Institute. There might be a newer version, which is called A Bit More Advice. I think you can't go wrong with either one. But it's Likutei Eitzot. So Rabbi Nachman's student, Rav Nassan, went through Likutei Moharan and pulled out all of the practical advice. So in this book, for example, you're not going to see the source in Gemara that you might see in Likutei Moharan. You'll just see all of the practical advice organized into categories. So if you go to the table of contents, you can see all of the different categories. I don't know if you can see that. So, for example, memory, marriage, tikkun chatzot, traveling, right? So depending on what topic is of interest to you, or something you feel like you want to work on, you go to that chapter and you can read that chapter through. Now, for each one of the pieces of practical advice, you're going to see the source at the end of where you could find it in Likutei Moharan. So let's say you want to work on a topic and there's one piece of advice that interests you. You can take that and go to Likutei Moharan. You find that lesson in Likutei Moharan and you study that lesson in depth. Going back to our little flowchart here, one of the most important things is to turn Torah learning into prayer. And what I mean by that is personal prayer. So when you go and speak to Hashem in your Hitbodedut session, which is just walking with Hashem or sitting down and just talking to Hashem in your own words, like Hashem is your best friend, one of the things you want to do is take what you're learning and talk about what you're learning to Hashem. Help and also putting in there how you want to work on it. So if it's being simple, you're pleading with Hashem to live simply, be simple, not be so caught up in, all of the news or how to make more money or whatever it is, whatever it's, even when it comes to Torah learning, to be simple in your Torah learning, to be happy for what you gained. Because again, the ultimate purpose is to connect with Hashem through Torah. So whatever you're learning in depth, which you could spend as much time on as you need, you turn that into prayer. And you'll get a sense, a feeling of when it's enough and you need to finish the lesson and move on to a different topic. And so for some people, they might live with that lesson for a month, 2 months, or even 5 years. It just depends on a feeling. Really, it's intuitive learning. The other thing I wanted to say, because you want to take it into Hitbodedut and you want to do personal prayer, Rav Nassan, his student, also wrote prayers for each of the Likutei Moharan lessons. And so some people might find it hard to, do Hitbodedut and speak about what you're learning. What you can do is study Likutei Tfilos. And I have to tell you that this method of learning has been so impactful in my life and in so many people that I know, because you, on the one hand, cover a lot of ground, but also whatever you're learning, especially in depth, you're really integrating because you're bringing it from your mind to your heart through prayer. Prayer creates that vessel for Torah that helps you hold it and become it. And so that's the Breslov approach. Now, what else? Other books you might see, you're going to see Sichot Aran, which are pieces of advice from Rabbi Nachman. You're going to see the book Tzaddik, which is Chayei Moharan, which is his biography. And you're also going to see the Aleph Bet book. I'm not going to get into all of the different Sfarim, but the other ones you'll see are the Aleph Bet book, which is Sefer Midot, which a lot of people like to read 1 page a day. And that's an amazing book as well. So Rabbi Nachman, I think when he was 13, he went through all of Shas and pulled out and categorized different advice as well from Shas. So if you're accustomed to studying Gemara, you're going to see it's pretty much all rooted in Gemara, I think. I don't know if there's other sources, maybe Midrash as well, but it's also categorized into topics. So you'll have a topic on money, and you'll see there'll be 3 pages about money where it's discussed in the Gemara. So that's another thing you will see. And of course, we want to learn all aspects of the Torah. So, people accustom themselves to also learning halacha, at least a couple of halachot a day, even Shulchan Aruch in depth. Rabbi Nachman stressed a lot, as well as Mishnah and Gemara. And I'm not going to go into that because I think generally, if people have a learning schedule that's at least 2-3 hours a day, whatever that is, they're going to cover everything. Now, most importantly, and I was just thinking about this, and I drew this little picture before. There you go. Ladder, Jacob's ladder. You have to know where you're at. And it can feel daunting to say, well, now I have to have 2 learning tracks, and I have to do this other learning that I was doing before with my chavrusa, and I have to learn halacha and Mishnah and Gemara every single day. I got to learn everything. And the truth is, Rabbi Nachman says that a person can become a tzaddik without knowing all the Torah. So you have to think of those things as 2 separate ideas of being a tzaddik, a righteous person, from a Talmud Chacham. Now, of course, in order to be a Talmud Chacham, there's different definitions of that, but you do need to have an understanding and real scholarship in all of Gemara, all of the oral Torah, as well as other things as well. But to be a righteous person, to be a good person, you do not need to know all of Shas. And that's a really important thing to remember, because Rabbi Nachman, especially Likutei Moharan, is going to fire you up to learn, and you're going to want to open, more Sfarim. You're going to want to, pray more, etc. It will fire you up, but just know that you have to grow little by little, climb the ladder one rung at a time. If you're not learning 5 pages of Gemara yet, or even 1 page of Gemara yet, don't try to jump to 5. Now, of course, you do need to have that idea of Naaseh v'nishma, like here's what I could do currently, and here's what I want to get to. But don't jump too far, because the Yetzer Hara will try to knock you down. It'll try to say, hey, you're not successful at that, give it up, etc. And I am guilty of this as well. I've sometimes shot a little bit too high, because of course we have to always grow and we have to shoot high. But if you try to shoot too high, it can knock you down, and then you can kind of get stuck in your feelings of and etc. It's not a good thing. So that's the only other piece of advice I will give, where it's get fired up, learn some Likutei Moharan, go from there. Those are the 2 tracks that Breslovers typically follow, and grow steadily, little by little. All right, if you do not have a copy of any of these books, I will leave links to it where you can read it online. And for the first 3 people that reach out to me and say, I don't have this book, I will buy this book for you. If you are in the U.S., I can send it to you. If you're overseas, I can send you the money for it, because I'm so confident that this book will change your life, and I truly believe that every single Jewish person needs to have Likutei Moharan in their home. Reach out to me, and I will make sure you will get it. Have a great rest of your day. Leave a comment below. Let me know how you learn. Let me know what works for you, what your challenges have been, and I will talk to you soon.